The girl in the chains, the black market was loud, dirty, and full of shadows. People sold strange things, weapons, stolen tech, even living beings. Captain Raylan hated this place, but he was here for a reason. He wasn't looking for trouble. Just a few old engine parts, maybe some food packs. But as he passed one of the cages, he stopped. His eyes locked on her. She sat alone, her knees pulled to her chest. Long silver chains wrapped around her wrists and ankles. She was thin, her skin pale and glowing faintly under the low lights. Her hair was dark and fell like silk across her shoulders, but it was her eyes that caught Raylan. They didn't look empty like the others. They looked proud, like someone who didn't belong here. "What's her price?" Raylan asked the slaver. The seller laughed. "Cheap. No one wants her. Says strange things. Doesn't obey commands. Broken toy." Raylan's jaw tightened. He hated how they talked about her like an object. "How much?" he asked again. 50 credits. Take her or leave her." Raylan dropped the chips on the table and turned without another word. The girl didn't move when the cage door opened. She just stared at him, calm and silent. He reached down and gently helped her up. Her chains rattled with every step. As they walked through the market, others stared, some with disgust, others with pity. But the girl said nothing. Raylan took her to his ship, a worn freighter called the Emberhawk. He gave her water, a blanket, and a corner to sit. She didn't touch the food, didn't thank him. She just watched him. He leaned against the wall and crossed his arms. "You got a name?" he asked. Silence. "Not a talker, huh?" Still nothing. He sighed and rubbed his eyes. "Look, I didn't buy you for what they thought. I don't do that. I just couldn't leave you there." Finally, she spoke. Her voice was soft but steady. Her eyes met his. "I was a princess once," she whispered. Raylan froze. "What?" "Before they sold my planet," she said. "Before they put chains on my wrists and a collar on my neck, I was heir to the throne of Varel." Raylan stared at her, unsure if he should laugh or believe her. "You're serious?" She nodded slowly. "Varel?" he repeated. "That world was destroyed 5 years ago. The Dominion took it." "They didn't destroy it," she said. "They betrayed us from within. My uncle gave me to them. To stop the war, they called it peace." Raylan sank into his chair. "And they sold you like cargo?" She looked away. "They told everyone I died. I was 14. They hid me, changed my name, marked me." She turned her back and pulled her shirt down slightly. Raylan saw it, a deep scar, shaped like a royal emblem, burned into her skin. "They said if I ever spoke the truth, they'd kill everyone in the cage with me." Raylan was silent. He didn't know what to say. Part of him wanted to doubt her, but another part believed every word. "Why tell? Me?" he asked. "Because you didn't look at me like a thing," she whispered. "Not like the others." The room was quiet for a long time. Raylan finally stood. "You're safe now. I won't chain you." She looked up, confused. He grabbed a small tool and walked over. Carefully, he broke the lock on her wrist. Then the other. Her arms trembled. "What's your name?" he asked again. She looked at her freed hands, then at him. "Kalira." Raylan nodded. "Okay, Kalira, my name's Raylan. And I think we both just stepped into something bigger than we understand." A weak smile touched her lips. "You don't believe in fate?" she asked. He shook his head. "No, but I believe in second chances." Outside the ship, the stars blinked in silence. But deep in the darkness, someone was already searching. And now that Kalira had spoken the truth, her enemies would come. Her chains were lies. Raylan didn't sleep that night. He sat in the cockpit of the Emberhawk, staring at the stars. Outside, the universe looked peaceful, but inside his ship, something powerful had just begun. The girl in his cargo bay wasn't just a rescued slave. She claimed to be the lost princess of a fallen empire. And somehow, deep down, he believed. Her in the back room, Kalira slept lightly. Her chains were gone, but the marks remained around her wrists, neck, and ankles. Raylan had given her a fresh blanket, clean water, and food. But she only ate a little. Her eyes stayed sharp, always watching, always thinking. The next morning, Raylan made some tea and brought a cup to her. "You slept?" he asked gently. "Little," she replied. "My dreams were loud." He sat across from her. "Look, Kalira, if that's really your name, do you have proof? Anything that can show who you are?" She reached under her shirt and pulled out a small shard of crystal. It glowed with a faint blue light. "This was from the heart of Varel," she said. "My mother wore it. Only those of the bloodline can activate it." Raylan took it carefully, turning it in his hand. It was warm, humming with some kind of energy. Not tech, not magic, something older. "Can I trust you, Raylan?" she asked suddenly. He looked at her, surprised. "You're the one who took the risk. You told me your truth." "Not the full truth," she said. He leaned in. "Quiet now. They're hunting me," she said. "Not just slavers, not just the Dominion, but bounty hunters, assassins, people from my own bloodline. They fear what I am, what I know. They fear the key I carry." "Key?" he asked. She nodded. "The key to a weapon. Hidden before our fall. My mother swore it would stay lost unless someone pure of heart brought it back. It could shift the balance of power across the galaxy." Raylan blinked. "You mean you're sitting here, on my ship, carrying the location to a galactic weapon, and every enemy in the stars wants your head?" Kalira didn't answer. Her silence was enough. Raylan cursed under his breath and stood up. "This is insane. I should drop you off at a neutral station and disappear." "You can," Kalira said quietly. "You're free. But if you do, I will be taken again. And next time, they won't let me live long enough to speak." Raylan stared at her. Her face was calm, strong, not begging, not afraid, just tired, like someone who had already accepted death. He sat back down. "Where do we go?" Kalira looked at him, surprised. "You're helping me?" He shrugged. "I've done worse for less." Just then, the ship's alarm buzzed. Raylan jumped to the console. "We're being scanned," he said. "Small ship approaching, fast, not broadcasting an ID." Kalira's face turned pale. "They found me." "Who?" Raylan asked. She whispered. "The first hunter." Outside the ship, a sleek, black vessel circled slowly like a bird of prey. Inside, a tall figure in dark armor checked the signal. "Target acquired," he said into his mic. "Energy signature confirms Varelian crystal nearby." "Bring her back alive," came the reply. "But if you must, kill the human." The bounty hunter smiled. Back inside the Ember Hawk, Raylan turned on stealth mode and dropped to low orbit over a red gas planet. The hunter ship followed. "You can fight?" he asked Kalira. "I can survive," she replied, standing up. He opened a locker and tossed her a small stun pistol. She caught it with one hand and checked the charge like she'd done it 100 times. "You really were royal," he muttered. They moved together through the ship, shutting off lights and prepping escape routes. The hunter docked. A loud hiss echoed as the outer doors opened. Raylan held his breath. Footsteps. Slow. Heavy. Kalira whispered. "He wears a mask that blocks emotion. He can't feel fear, but he can smell it." Raylan laughed softly. "Good thing I don't scare. Easy." The hunter stepped inside the corridor. His voice was calm, almost bored. "Give her up, human, and you'll live." Raylan stepped forward. "Sorry, not for sale." The hunter aimed. Kalira fired first, hitting his shoulder. He staggered, surprised. Raylan ducked and rolled behind the crates, shooting fast. The hunter moved like a shadow, too fast, too skilled. But Kalira wasn't done. She grabbed a pipe, ran up the side wall, and swung it with all her strength. It cracked against the hunter's helmet. He stumbled back, disoriented. Raylan fired again, this time hitting a fuel canister. Near the wall, boom, flames exploded. Alarm screamed. The hunter dropped to the floor, armor sparking. Raylan dragged Kalira to the cockpit. "We're jumping. Now." They punched the warp drive. Space twisted, and the Emberhawk vanished into the stars. Later that night, Kalira sat with her knees pulled up again, breathing slowly. Raylan walked in, face bruised. "You did good," he said. "You didn't leave me," she whispered. He looked at her for a long moment. "No," he said. "Because I think you're more than what they say. I think your chains were lies, and someone needs to help you break the last ones." Kalira finally smiled. Soft. Real. And for the first time, she felt safe. The hidden scar on her back, they drifted in deep space for hours, hiding among the debris fields of a forgotten battlefield. The wrecks of ancient warships floated like graves in the dark. Silent. Cold. Perfect cover. Raylan worked on the hull, repairs with shaky hands. His side ached from the fight. His face was bruised and bloody, but the adrenaline hadn't worn off yet. Inside the ship, Kalira sat on the floor near the engine room. Her head rested against the wall, and her eyes stayed closed. She looked peaceful, but only on the surface. Beneath the blanket around her shoulders, her fingers were trembling. Raylan walked in with a first aid kit. "You all right?" he asked. She opened her eyes. "I've had worse." "That bounty hunter back there," Raylan said, kneeling beside her. "He was ready to kill us both." "He won't be the last," she replied. "They've been watching, waiting. I've escaped before, but not like this. Never with someone else risking their life for me." Raylan cleaned a scratch on her arm. "So, why me?" "Because you didn't ask who I belonged to," she whispered. "You asked for my name." Raylan stayed quiet. The silence between them was not awkward. It was heavy, full of things unsaid. Then, she slowly reached for the hem of her shirt and lifted it just enough to show her back. He froze. Running down her spine from the neck to the lower back was a long, uneven scar, not a normal wound. It shimmered faintly, like it had been carved with burning metal and sealed with ancient tech. "This," she said quietly, "is what they did when I refused to kneel." Raylan stared. What is it?" "A royal seal. But they twisted it, turned it into a warning. They wanted anyone who saw me to know I was claimed, owned. They branded me with my own house's crest. Like a mockery." She pulled the shirt back down. "I was 12 when they burned it. Into me." Raylan sat back, shocked. "And they call themselves rulers? The Dominion doesn't care about bloodlines. They care about power and fear. They broke my name so others wouldn't follow it." "But you survived," Raylan said softly. Kalira looked up at him. "No, I endured. Survival came later." Then, she reached for her small crystal again. "This is all I have left of who I was and maybe who I still am." The crystal suddenly flickered, then glowed brighter than ever before. Raylan blinked. "Why is it doing that?" "Because something's near," Kalira said, standing quickly. "Something old. Across the wreck field, hidden satellite activated. Its ancient sensors stirred for the first time in decades. It recognized the signal from Kalira's crystal. It sent a ping. On a forgotten moon nearby, a deep underground vault stirred to life. Lights blinked. Machines hummed. The last safe house of House Varel had been found. Back on the Emberhawk, something just pinged. "Us," Raylan said, watching the console. "Coordinates. That way." He pointed to the nearby moon, barely lit by the dying light of a red star. Kalira looked over his shoulder. "That's a family vault, a real one, hidden under the crust. I didn't know it still existed." Raylan narrowed his eyes. "Is it safe?" Kalira hesitated. "Only if it still remembers me." They landed at dusk. The moon's surface was cold and sharp, like broken glass. Old towers stood half buried in dust, fallen sideways from long ago battles. Raylan and Kalira, walked slowly, following the signal to a large stone gate. Kalira stepped forward, holding the glowing crystal. The gate didn't open. Instead, a voice echoed from nowhere. "Name the royal heir." Kalira raised her head. "Kalira Virel, daughter of Queen Saraja, rightful heir to the Star Throne." Silence. Then, blood test required. A needle slid from the stone. Kalira did not hesitate. She pressed her palm to it. A drop of her blood fell into the stone. Everything went quiet. Then the gate cracked open. Raylan stepped back, stunned. Inside was a chamber of ancient tech and golden walls. Hollow screens lit up. Symbols danced through the air. Kalira stepped forward slowly, touching the center console. A small AI projection appeared. A female face. "Princess, you have returned." Kalira's lips trembled. "I thought all of this was lost," Raylan whispered. "What is this place?" She turned to him, her voice strong again. "This is the last memory of my people, and maybe our only chance to fight back." The ship that shouldn't exist, the ancient vault on the moon, was still, breathing. Every wall hummed softly like it remembered songs from long ago. Soft golden lights followed Kalira's steps as she walked deeper into the chamber. This place had waited for her, waited for someone of the royal blood to return. Raylan followed close behind, quiet, alert, hand on his blaster. This was no ordinary ruin. This was a relic of a forgotten empire. "How is all this still working?" he asked. Kalira paused, placing her hand on a glowing panel. "It was built by the first rulers of Virel. They believed the true line would return, even after death and betrayal. It's all powered by something they called soul memory, energy tied to blood, not machines." "That sounds like magic," Raylan muttered. "It's older than that," she whispered. Suddenly, a sharp pulse echoed through the room. One of the walls began to shift, splitting open slowly with a sound like cracking stone. Inside was a black, curved command chair covered in dust. Around it, screens, maps, and one large hologram of a warship. Massive, deadly, shaped like a bird of flame. Its wings stretched across stars. Kalira's breath caught. "No, it can't be." Raylan looked up. "What is it?" "It's the Theraxis." She stepped forward, eyes wide. "Our house's lost flagship. We thought it was destroyed in the last war. But it's still out there?" Kalira nodded. "If this map is right, it's hidden, cloaked, sleeping in a dark zone near the star graveyard." Raylan whistled. "A ghost ship?" "No," she said. "A buried king." Suddenly, the lights blinked and the AI returned. "Princess, are you prepared to reclaim the vessel?" Kalira swallowed hard. "Yes." The AI's voice changed. Colder now. "Blood test confirmed. Initiating secondary link. Human presence detected. Initiating compatibility scan." Raylan stepped back. I don't think..." A thin beam of light scanned him from head to toe. Symbols flickered around him. Kalira turned fast. "Stop. He's not royal," the AI interrupted. "Warning. Unexpected genetic response. Partial match detected. Anomaly confirmed." Raylan blinked. "What the hell does that mean?" Kalira's face went pale. "You activated the ship's map. Without royal blood. That's not supposed to happen." "I didn't do anything." "Exactly," she said. "And that's the problem." Hours later, they sat inside the vault staring at the star map. It showed the ship's current location, still cloaked, still buried in the deep gravity fields of a collapsed star. Only a direct signal from this vault could wake it. "I think we need to go there," Raylan said. Kalira looked at him, unsure. "The Theraxis responds to bloodline code only, but it also recognized you. That shouldn't be possible." "What are you saying?" "Maybe you're not just human," she whispered. He laughed. "I think I'd know if I was part alien royalty." "Maybe. You wouldn't. Maybe someone in your family line long ago when was more than human. Raylan went quiet. He remembered his grandfather, a man who used to stare at the stars like they owed him something. He'd spoken of wars, of strange powers, of things people said were myths. Raylan had always thought he was just old and dreaming. Maybe not. They reached the location 3 days later. The region was dead. Light from nearby stars bent unnaturally, pulled by ancient gravity wells. It was a place where ships vanished, where signals never escaped. But the Emberhawk pressed on. Then, it appeared. The ship, a giant shape black as space itself, floated in silence. Not dead, just sleeping, like a beast waiting to wake. The Thraxis. Raylan and Kaelira stared through the viewport. It was bigger than cities. Its wings stretched like the bones of a god. "This is it," she whispered. "This was my family's pride." They sent the signal from the vault's crystal. Nothing. Kaelira tried again. Still nothing. "Maybe it's broken," Raylan said. She shook her head. "No. It's rejecting me." "Why?" "Because I'm not the one it's waiting for." Raylan stepped forward. "Don't be crazy." Kaelira handed him the crystal. "Touch it." "Why me?" "Just do it." He touched the edge. The ship lit up. Hundreds of lights flickered across its surface. One by one, systems came online. Engines hummed. Defenses glowed. And then, the ship sent a signal. To him. "Captain confirmed," said a deep voice through the Emberhawk's speakers. "Human genome compatible. Awaiting orders." Kaelira's eyes were wide with shock. "You're not just a helper," she said. "You're the key." Raylan stared out the window at the massive warship now turning slowly toward them. "And if I'm the key," he whispered, "then someone very powerful is going to want me dead." Kaelira nodded. "You just became more dangerous than you?" "No, far away. A Dominion fleet received a signal. The Thraxis had awakened, and the royal trader was not alone anymore. The princess and the smuggler. The Thraxis moved like a silent god through the darkness. Its engines were almost too quiet, too smooth, ancient tech powered by something deeper than fuel or wires. The galaxy had forgotten this ship existed, but now it was awake. Inside the command center, Raylan stood before the control chair. The ship accepted him, responded to him, as if it had been waiting all this time. Kaelira sat near the star map, watching. She should have been the one in that seat. It was her family's legacy, her mother's throne. But the Thraxis had chosen him, and Kaelira didn't feel anger. She felt hope, for the first time in years. She wasn't alone. "So," Raylan said, turning from the console, "what now? We have a warship, a name that makes people nervous, and about a dozen enemies trying to kill us." Kaelira stood. "Now, we stop hiding. We start fighting back." Their first target was a Dominion supply ship, small, armored, carrying prisoners. From across the sector, Kaelira read the data with cold eyes. "This is not just cargo. They're taking scholars, children, and elders from Race 3 to be processed." "Processed?" Raylan asked. "Turned into workers. Or worse." He nodded. "Once. Then we hit them hard. They planned fast. The Thraxis had stealth mode so strong it didn't register on most sensors. It could get close, too close, before anyone noticed. As the Dominion ship entered a trade corridor, the Thraxis dropped out of drift. The enemy barely had time to react. A single warning shot hit their engines. Raylan's voice echoed on all comms. "Release the captives, or be spaced." The Dominion captain replied with arrogance. "You're outnumbered." Kaelira stepped forward and pressed a single button. From the Thraxis, a hidden turret opened. It fired once. The enemy's weapon systems melted. "You have 30 seconds, Raylan said calmly. The captives were freed. Kaelira stood at the docking bay as the doors opened. Alien children walked out first, shivering, scared, holding hands. Behind them came the weak, the old, the forgotten. Faces from 10 different species. One little girl with feathers instead of hair looked up at Kaelira. Are you a queen? She asked. Kalira knelt down, tears threatening to fall. Not yet. The girl smiled. But you look like one. Word spread fast. The ghost ship Theraxis was no longer a rumor. It was real. And it had returned under the flag of the lost princess, and a human who commanded its will. They hit more targets. Slave transports vanished. Illegal mines were shut down. Whole colonies, once abandoned, began to rise again. People started calling Raylan by a new name. The fire-handed human. Some called Kalira, the chainbreaker queen. But power draws attention. One night, Raylan sat with Kalira on the observation deck. Stars floated quietly beyond the glass. The soft hum of the ship was the only sound. He passed her a cup of heated fruit tea, something from a trader world he barely remembered. She sipped it. Sweet. You need sweet, he said. You've been serious all day. She smiled, barely. Then she asked, Do you miss your old life? The smuggler life? He chuckled. Running from patrols, sleeping on broken crates, eating protein paste? She nodded. He shrugged. I miss the quiet, but not the emptiness. She turned her eyes back to the stars. You could leave. I could, but you won't. No, he said. Because now, I'm part of something that matters. She looked at him. The air between them changed. Slower. Warmer. Raylan stood up. Get some sleep. Tomorrow we head for Talvis Prime. They've got a labor camp full of resistance fighters. Kalira nodded. I'll be ready. But before he turned to leave, she said softly, Thank you. He paused. For what? For not treating me like a symbol, she said. For seeing the girl under the crown. Far across the stars. A council of dominion. Rulers watched silent footage of the Theraxis in battle. They saw Raylan. They saw Kalira. A general slammed his fist on the table. We should have ended her as a child. A tall woman in dark robes spoke coldly. Then end her now, and bring me the human alive. I want to know what he is. Why? Because no human should command a royal ship, she said. Unless he's not just human. Back on the Theraxis. As Raylan lay in his quarters, his dreams were strange. He saw fire, thrones of glass, a voice calling him by another name, a name he had never heard before. But somehow, it felt familiar. Her throne was made of ash, the Theraxis, drifted through the smoke rings of a dying star, quiet as a breath. Inside, the silence was heavy. No one spoke, not the crew, not the rescued fighters, not even the children. They all knew where they were going. Varel. Kalira stood on the bridge, staring at the red planet on the screen. Her homeworld. It looks dead, Raylan whispered. It is, she replied. Or at least that's what they want people to believe. Raylan looked closer. The atmosphere was still alive, but poisoned. The great cities had turned to stone and rust. Towers that once reached the stars were now broken like teeth. Lightning storms raged across the skies without end. We're going down? He asked. Kalira nodded. My uncle rules from the old palace. He took the throne after I disappeared, told everyone I died in exile. Now, I return. With a warship? No, she said. With the truth. They landed in the outskirts. Ruins surrounded them. Once beautiful marble roads now cracked and filled with ash. Statues of her mother were torn down and replaced with the new ruler's image. A tall, cruel figure in heavy armor. Kalira stared at one broken statue lying in the dust. My mother's face, she said quietly, brushing the stone with her fingers. She used to smile in this one. Raylan placed a hand on her shoulder. She'd be proud of you. Kalira didn't cry. She stood straighter, colder. Let's go. They entered the city through tunnels known only to the royal line. The palace gates were guarded, but no one expected a living ghost. They moved quickly, shadows in a world that forgot their names. They reached the inner court, a grand hall of gold and fire. On the throne sat her uncle, Lord Varen, once a general, now a false king. He wore a long black cloak. Beside him, Dominion, guards in shining armor. He looked older, bitter, but his voice was still sharp. "Kalira," he said slowly, rising to his feet. "I had almost forgotten your face, but I never forgot yours," she answered. He stepped down from the throne. "You were supposed to die on that slave ship. I gave them your blood, your name, everything. And yet, here you are, alive, with a human." He looked at Raylan, curious. "Does he know what you are? What you carry?" Raylan stepped forward. "She carries something you never had. Honor." Varen laughed. "And you, boy? You don't even know who you are, do you?" Someone who won't let you hurt her again." Varen's eyes glinted. "Oh, but you already have. Do you really think the Theraxis would bond with a random smuggler? That ship was built by the old alliance, Varel and Earth, bound by a secret blood pact." Kalira froze. "What?" "Oh yes," Varen said. "The first humans to reach this side of space weren't explorers. They were protectors. And one of them stayed, married into the royal line. We buried the history because it made us look weak. And now, look who stands at your side. The last living heir of the other half of our blood." Raylan stared in shock. "You're saying you are part of this house," Varen said. "You are one of us, and that makes your betrayal even more painful." Kalira's voice turned to steel. "He's not a betrayal. He's the future." "No," Varen growled. "He's the end." He drew a sword, ancient, glowing. Kalira stepped in front of Raylan. "I'll fight my own war." The duel began, steel against fire, old blood against new truth. Kalira moved like wind, graceful, trained in the old ways. Varen was stronger, brutal, fueled by years of lies and fear. The throne room trembled. Raylan watched, hands clenched. He wanted to jump in. But this was her fight. Blades clashed. Sparks flew. Finally, Kalira's sword knocked Varen's from his hand. She placed her blade at his neck. "You destroyed our home," she whispered. "Sold our people. Branded your own blood. Do it," he spat. "Kill me. Be like me." Kalira took a deep breath. Then she dropped the sword. "No," she said. "I break the chain here." The guards stepped back. No one moved. Varen collapsed to his knees, defeated, not by death, but by mercy. Outside the palace, crowds began to gather. They had seen the Theraxis in the sky. They heard the rumors. And now, they saw Kalira step forward, holding her mother's crystal. "I am Kalira Viral," she shouted. "Not dead, not broken, and not alone." Raylan stepped beside her. The people whispered. Some knelt. Others raised fists. Hope was returning. And behind them, the old throne began to glow. Not for power, but for truth. That night, in the royal chamber, Kalira sat beside a fire. "You know what he said about your bloodline," she said softly. Raylan nodded. "Makes sense. I always felt disconnected from Earth, like something inside me belonged somewhere else. You belong here." He looked at her. "With you?" She smiled. "With all of us." They sat together in silence, watching the flames dance. For once, she wasn't a runaway slave, and he wasn't a drifting smuggler. They were something new. The princess who chose a human. The wind on Varel was changing. After years of silence and control, the people whispered again. Not in fear, but in hope. They spoke of the return of the princess, of the human who walked beside her, of the warship, in the sky that had not been seen in 100 years. Kalira stood on the balcony of the royal tower looking down at the courtyard. It was full. Aliens and citizens, elders and children. Some wore chains still broken from camps, others carried tools, weapons, or just their voices. They were ready. The rebellion was no longer hiding. It was here, and she was at the center. Raylan stepped beside her, armor scratched from their last raid. He looked tired, but something burned in his eyes. A fire that had grown since the day he met her in the black market. "They're waiting for you," he said. She nodded. "But I'm not what they remember. I'm not a soft princess in a golden dress." "No," he said. "You're better." She turned to face him. "I need to ask you something. Anything. When this is over, when we win or fall, I don't want to sit on that throne alone." Raylan blinked. "Are you asking?" "I'm choosing," she said. "Not for blood, not for politics. I choose you, not as a tool, not as a symbol, as my partner, my equal." Raylan's voice cracked slightly. "I've never been royalty." "Good," she smiled. "Then we'll build something new." The final battle began 2 days later. The Dominion fleet arrived, 80 ships strong, black hulls, red lights, thousands of soldiers trained to crush hope before it could rise. But they were not ready. Not for the Thraxis, now fully active. Not for the rebels of Varel, armed with weapons pulled from old bunkers and new courage. And not for the people across 5 systems who rose up at the same time, inspired by the voice of a girl once called a slave. On the bridge of the Thraxis, Raylan gave the order, "Cloak off. Weapons. Ready." The AI responded. All systems green, targeting locked. Kalira stood beside him in battle armor. No crown. Just steel and scars. "For every life they took," she said. "For every chain they placed," he added. The ship fired. Waves of energy tore through the Dominion front lines. 1, 2, 3 ships gone in seconds. Rebel fighters launched from the ground. Missiles lit up the sky. The people of Virel fought with all their pain and all their love. Kalira led the ground charge. Raylan led the fleet in orbit. They fought as one. But then, a Dominion dreadnought appeared from behind a gas moon. Too big. Too fast. It fired directly at the planet's surface. Raylan screamed through the comms. "Kalira, get out of there." But she didn't run. Instead, she turned her crystal in the Earth's old temple ruins, activating an ancient shield dome that rose from beneath the ground. The blast hit the dome and bounced. The dreadnought exploded. The people roared. The Dominion fleet began to retreat. They had lost, not just a battle, they had lost their control. A week later, the coronation began, not in a palace, but in the courtyard where it started. Kalira stood in simple royal robes, half traditional, half shaped by her journey. The people sang her name, but she raised her hand. "This is not just for me." She turned to Raylan. "This is for all of us, for humans, for aliens, for every soul that was told they were nothing." She placed a ring of old metal on his hand. It wasn't made of gold. It was carved from one of the chains that once held her. "This," she said, "is my promise." Raylan didn't speak. He just took her hand. And the people wept. Far away, in a secret Dominion chamber, a shadowy figure watched the footage. "The girl lives. The human commands the Thraxis. The prophecy is in motion." Another voice asked, "What should we do?" The shadow leaned forward. "We wait. Because they may have won the world, but the stars are still watching." Back on Virel, in the quiet night, Kalira and Raylan sat together in the garden. No crown, no guards, just each other. "So," he whispered, "what do we do now?" She leaned her head on his shoulder. "We lead. We fight. Only if we must. We love." She smiled. "Always."